Let's see how you do under pressure. Oh, yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey. Yeah. Ain't no errors, baby, it's a new era. I wake up early, feeling rich like I'm I get to the paper, boy. Extra. Fuck with me, you know that I got it.
Yo, what is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Life by the Horns. Along with Dustin, you've got your boy Blake, and man, we're excited to be back, man. It's been a minute.
Yeah, hell yeah, it has, man. It's been like 2 or 3 weeks since we recorded.
It's a long time, man.
Yeah, 100%.
How have the last 2 weeks been for you?
Busy, overwhelming, productive, but nah, man, it's been a wild ride. What about you?
Yeah, same, man. Same. Just getting over a sickness, so it's nice to finally feel back close to 100%, man. It's that cold or something that's going around kind of knocked my ass to the ground, but feeling good, man. Feeling ready, feeling energized, ready to rock and roll.
Awesome, man. Well, I am happy to be back. Like I said, yeah, it's been super busy, but actually last week my wife and I went on an impromptu vacation, which was super great. We went just by ourselves, no kids. So we loved the first 2 days, and then we were like missing them and wanted them to be there. But yeah, within the week before that, I was actually out in Dallas for a conference with a bunch of other marketers. And the conversation was actually something that I think is super important for everybody that's listening, and often I wouldn't say overlooked, but there's like seasons of it. And it was all sales and lead gen. That was everything that we talked about. And one of the quotes that was shared by this guy, Matt, and I'm going to botch this thing probably, was don't start digging a well when you need water. And I sat there for a minute and I'm like, man, how many times have you talked to somebody or me and they're like, we need marketing and we need it to work and we've only got $6 or 3 pennies to pinch together and this has got to work tomorrow? Like, how many times has that happened to you in your career?
More than I'd like to count, man. You know, so many businesses, whether they've used another marketing agency before or, you know, are just starting out, are kind of caught with their pants down and like, hey, I need that immediate gratification and I need wins like on the board right now. And it's so unfortunate because there's so many other things that they need in their business first before they can even start running marketing. Yet they're told that, you know, running Google ads or Facebook ads is the sure solution to help them get them, you know, out of a hole. And unfortunately, that's just not the case.
Yeah. No, I think to your point, there's so many other things that they need. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, and we don't even do this, but how many times folks have come to me and been like, hey, I really want to run Google ads. I'm like, okay, great. And we take a look at their website and landing pages if they have them. And I'm like, man, I could run Google ads till the cows come home for you. And, you know, the click-through rate and the traffic would be great, but I don't think people would convert. And either A, they get super offended, or B, they're like, okay, well, what do we got to do to make them convert? And it's like, well, I mean, we're going to have to revamp the website and this is what it's going to cost. And it always sucks when you hear like, I just don't have that. You know, I've only got a couple $100 to throw at this thing. And like, if this doesn't work, and they're like, well, or the worst is, well, let's just give it a shot. And it's like, no, I can tell you right now, it's not going to work. So, and what sucks is there's also so many agencies, you know, or bottom feeders out there that are willing to do it. And I think that's where so many small business owners specifically get really upset with marketing agencies. I mean, hell, you spoke to one the other day, and what was their budget? Or what were they spending or investing in the current agency and all the services they were doing, and nothing was happening?
Yeah, it's funny because the exact example that you're mentioning right now, guy reached out to me. He's like, hey man, I need some help with marketing. You know, I really need to get some sales, and, you know, sounded pretty desperate. And as we broke it down, he's currently with another agency paying about $350 a month to do SEO, Google ads, Facebook ads, website conversion, optimization, and all this stuff. And I'm just like, man, it's no wonder that you're not getting results. Like, you know, you're being kind of just strung along. And, you know, unfortunately, there's so many cowboys in the marketing space that are just willing to say, hey, we can do it for $1 so that they get rich. And unfortunately, they kind of string you along for so many months. And by that time, you've been kind of bled dry and they've made their money. But
Right.
yeah, man, it's just, it's tough. And I had to tell him, I said, look, like the only option that you've really got is I would just put all your investment into like either Google ads or you do SEO, but SEO, you're not going to see a result tomorrow, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He didn't like it, but I was honest.
And I'm sure there's some other, Tom, Dick, or Harry out there that's like, no, that's not what you need. If you go with me, I can get you rich just so the guy can make a quick buck, which is just terrible. But yeah, man, going back to, years and years ago, and which was like part of the reason we started our agency was, and it's like a ballsy thing to do, but I was so confident in what we were doing. I didn't care to take the risk. And when we would start having conversations with business owners and they're like, hey, this is what I want. And we would do some, research on the company and we're like, no, this is what you need. And normally it was, we're going to do everything. We're going to revamp your site and optimize it for conversions. We're going to do SEO and content creation for you. We're going to run ads. And they'd go, man, that's like really expensive. I'm like, well, I mean, the reality is it's less than one of your full-time employees. And we're going to show up every day. And the ROI on your investment is going to be significant. And they normally would have like a lot of bad experiences before, but most would give us a shot. And it was very, I wouldn't say it's interesting at all, but what I love so much about it is when you have complete control and it's just one entity that's doing everything and they do it really, really well. Like all of a sudden these small businesses look like an actual big brand because the messaging's the same everywhere. No matter where a lead or a site visitor, wherever it goes, then they see you when they're on Instagram or Facebook or whatever it may be. But it was, we always preached consistency in messaging. And, when I hear these people come to us and they just like, oh, I just want you to run X. I'm like, man, it won't work. Like, I wish it would, because then it would be just super easy to sell these, small a la carte packages and drive in a ton of revenue and then just add more and more services over time. But more often than not, I think there's probably only a handful of customers that have even come to me that I've been comfortable enough to run ads to their site. Most of them, I'm like, no, this is atrocious. Like, who put it together? And like, oh, I did. I'm like, oh, and then they're like, yeah, you're the first one that's ever told me that. And I'm like, it's because I'm not your friend and I'm not going to lie to you. Like, this is just where we're at. But yeah, it just sucks, man. It just sucks. And, back to that conference, I feel so bad for all these small businesses that they do good at what they do. And then they get some referrals. And then with those referrals, they think they're going to crush it. And they never pay attention to, what happens when I need to actually drive in more leads.
One of the things that I'll always ask a business when having a conversation is if they're relying on word of mouth and referrals and they want to grow, I simply just ask them, like, how many referrals are you going to get next month? And it's that hesitation, it's that pause, it's that I don't know answer that I'm looking for to say to them exactly like, you can't sustain and grow a business on word of mouth and referral leads. You just can't do it. So other than that, like, what else are you going to do to grow your business?
Yeah.
And most of the time I get silence. And I think it's a good thing because a business owner needs to reflect and say, he's got a point. What else am I going to do to grow my business? And look, referrals are great. They're the hottest leads you can get. Don't get me wrong. But when you want to actually grow a business and sustain it, you can't with word of mouth and referral leads. You just can't.
No, and I like what one of the gentlemen shared with us when we were out in Dallas, and it was just, how many are you getting per month on average? And, you go around the room, and then he pulls up a slide, and he's like, what would you do with 27,000 leads a month, though? And everyone's like, oh, yeah. Like, like, well, we couldn't take that on. He's like, well, but if you had 27,000 leads, like, couldn't you raise your prices? And couldn't you put people on wait list? And couldn't you build a team, over time? Like, which problem would you rather have? Like, way too much work coming in or, trying to survive? And like, man. And then they, took it a couple of steps further, which I thought was pretty neat. And I think, every, business owner does this at some point. But he just had this really simple analogy and he was like, hey, here just like, and I wish I could draw a picture on the board right now, but he was like, I want you to look at this like linear process, A, B, and C. And, point A, you've got 10 units that are coming through per hour. And at point B, you have 2. And at point C, you have 5. He's like, so many of you start working on things that are not the most important thing. You start working on point C and try to get it to 10 units per hour. when the reality is B is your bottleneck. And then when we pivoted back to leads, and he's like, dude, the reality of the growth of most of your businesses is leads. And if any given time you could just turn a lever on and get as many as you wanted, you wouldn't have it. I mean, every other problem can be solved by revenue. You can grow teams, you can outsource things, you can get VAs, you can bring, systems engineers in, anything in the world, as long as you have enough revenue. And you can put people on a wait list. You can refer them out to somebody else, and yeah, you may lose them. But at the end of the day, I think, and it was just such an aha moment. Like, man, he's right. Like, you don't need to work on the other 90% of the stuff. You need to work on the one thing, the most important thing. But I don't know. I thought that was interesting. And then I thought what else was kind of interesting. And I've been through every season of this. One of the things that we were discussing was turning off the faucet. Like, you've got the leads coming in and all things are good. And you're like, I just can't take on any more work. Because let's say, I don't know, the employment market is terrible or whatever it may be, because the government's giving people a bunch of free money. But he was like, the other terrible thing here is if you're doing really well with leads and all of a sudden you just take your foot off the gas, you stop doing Google ads, you stop doing Facebook ads, you stop doing SEO, you stop doing cold outreach because you can just barely hang on with what you got. And I'm not saying like you just do a Hail Mary and take anything and everything, but you raise your prices, you put people on wait lists, like those things make sense. And I remember in one season, it was 3 or 4 years ago, we took our foot off the gas, slowed things down. We had enough business coming in. Things were good. It was hard to find good team members. And in that moment, it was like, the perfect storm. We had a very large competitor that was well-funded come into the market and take off right behind our backs. And we didn't even know it because we weren't paying attention to the competition. We were good. And to this day, I'm like, man, I wish we would have just doubled down. I wish we would have just paid people more to get more people in the door to really put a squeeze on this guy, but we didn't.
You know what they say, sales heals all wounds.
Right.
Sales heals everything. We understand, as a small business owner, what it takes to succeed. And, you've got to test and test and test until you find, what's going to work for your business. You got to keep your foot on the gas, because if you don't, like Dustin said, it's like, to your point, you'll have a competitor that just enters the market and takes off by storm.
Yeah. Well, I think there's the other side of this that, there was a niche that we used to work with really heavily. And some of our competitors started targeting the exact same marketing channels and providing services for the same channels. And then all of a sudden, like that saying, right, a rising tide lifts all boats. Everyone's investing in all the same things. And they're like, man, I'm not really getting a great result. It's like, because literally everybody else in your market is doing this now. So it makes it more challenging. And I know oftentimes too, inside of a business, you'll identify like 1 or 2 lead or marketing streams that help significantly. And then that's just your only focus. And like you've got roofing companies that go out and they just canvas areas and knock on doors, and clearly that works. But there are a lot of other channels that could help scale a business like that, especially if their competition is not doing it. And I love a saying that I heard years ago, and I've probably said it 100 times now, but the fishing is plentiful where the fewest go. And so if no one's doing cold outreach, I'd check it out. If no one's knocking on doors, probably should check it out, because your competition's just not doing it. They're lazy. It's like, make up an analogy or whatever it may be, but like when a cat gets fat, or the best analogy I could think of is a bird feeder. Like you put a bird feeder out in your yard and you just make it super, super, super simple. And the birds just get so easy and they keep coming back. But eventually the bird feeder runs out. And then what? Then they got to go back and hunt and start trying to find things again. And then, it's harder. They forget. And I think that, far too often, we get kind of comfortable. But in the life cycle of business, you even posted something about this the other day. If you're not growing, you're dying. And so many of us get comfortable with like really steady growth because we think that's okay. Well, I promise you, there's some competitors out there that want to grow really fast. And that's not saying that everybody has to do that, but I just think, to all the small guys out there that are trying to grow something, are like, hey man, this is good enough to support my family. Is it good enough to get you into retirement? Is it good enough to sell? Probably not. And if it's not, and you're afraid to grow, you can put other people on the bus to help with the operations, the administrative work, sales, marketing, whatever it may be that you're weak at. Like, because chances are, you as the founder, co-founder, CEO, owner, whatever it may be, you are going to be the bottleneck. 100%. Like, the growth of the company is going to come down to you, and you're going to have to put other smart people around you. So, yeah, I don't know if I could say anything to any business anywhere. Do not start digging the well when you need water, because you will die.
Whew. Spitting some fire today, bro. I'm glad that you had some really good takeaways from that seminar that you went to.
Yeah, it was great, man. It got me amped. Learned a lot of good things too.
What else, man? What other knowledge do you want to drop on our listeners?
Man, I don't know. We talked about everything under the sun. I'm trying to think though, but Matt, one of the speakers, was definitely one of my favorites. They were all great. Thad, who talked a lot about podcasting, his was super great. I ended up having to miss one of them, so I wish I would have caught that. But I don't know. It's kind of a blur, man. I've been so busy with everything that's been going on and with the relaxation from vacation and stuff. But I know I've got like 7 pages of notes from it though that I still need to synthesize down. But no, it was super good information, and it wasn't even. I mean, there were simple things that we talked about there that most of us just don't even do. We pay attention to top of funnel and then middle and then all the way down to the bottom. But then, simple things like, nurturing the customers that you already have, setting expectations on the front end, like, hey, when we do the things that we say that we're going to do and we get you to the next level, I would love for you to refer 2 to 3 other, customers or friends or businesses just like you to me, because I'd like to do the same for them. And, if you do what you've committed to do, chances are they know people that are like them, that are in their group. And it's like, man, why aren't customers or businesses doing these simple things? It just, again, it seems like so many are just paying attention to a single lane. And the most important thing, to your point, is sales. Sales.
Yeah, I think if any business is thinking about marketing and you're on, like, let's say, a limited budget, I would say it's always best to start with one thing, get the return, and then reinvest into other channels if you're on a very limited budget, rather than spreading your resources too thin. But if you can be a bit more flexible with your marketing budget, it's always best to test multiple channels, multiple streams, to A/B test which one's going to work, conversion rates, all sorts of things, lead time. Those are the sort of metrics that I look out for. It just really depends on someone's marketing budget on how much they can do. But, I prefer people to test multiple channels.
Yeah.
Rather than just one. But
yeah, I think it also goes back to, like, how do people find them? Like, how do people find a business that's in your space normally, and focusing on those types of channels? Because, I mean, I've had, realtors come to me and they're like, oh, I think it'd be a good idea for me to do SEO. Like, SEO for a personal branded realtor against the Remaxes and Keller Williams and all that referral, it's like probably not a great idea. What do you do different? And they're like, oh, this is why I'm so great. I'm like, okay, let's focus on personal branding, which isn't something that we do, but here's a playbook for how to do that. And I think some of that goes back to just what they hear from other people. And I mean, sure, if she knew another realtor that was crushing it in SEO, I'd love to meet him. But I think it's just so oftentimes like, oh, I tried this and this worked for me, instead of being educated in the space, which is completely fair. Like, I wouldn't expect anyone to have the knowledge that we do. But I think that's also what sets us apart. We will tell people no and say, like, hey, this makes a lot more sense and this is why. But this is the reality of what the cost is going to be. And sometimes I've told people no, they've wanted the gamut. And it's like, you don't actually need that right now. We need to establish what this brand is and this site, and then we can move into ads and those kind of things. Because right now, pumping money into ads when you've got a trash site and you don't even know what your brand's all about, that doesn't make sense in this moment. That's more of a tiered effort.
Couldn't agree more, bro.
So I wonder if I had any other big takeaways. I had a lot of funny moments, that's for sure.
Let's hear them, dude.
No, it was just the whole thing's just full of great people, man. And I think this group that I'm in, they're really committed to paying attention to who you are and what you need, and putting you next to people that have the same problems. So, me and this guy, Tyler, never met him before. He speaks up with, one of their biggest problems in their business. And, like, he finishes and I'm like, all right, this was strategic. Like, Tyler, I have the same problem. But no, it was just a great time, man. And I've been to so many of these types of conferences before, and you walk away with some really surface level stuff, and that's never happened here. Like with Matt, with his presentation, like we started really high, but then we got in the weeds. And I mean, he shared something super practical with us, which I think is great. He's like, guys, I want you to follow this methodology for trying to get leads. And it's just one of the things that they do. But he said, just go out there, create an ad, make it relatively simple. We don't need 14,000 words of copy inside of this thing. Here's some of the formulas and stuff that we use, and just ask people to come to a training seminar, not in person, just virtual. Or, I help people do X so that they don't do Y. Like, make that the title. I'm like, all right, simple enough. And he's like, and then have them register, and then don't even give them a date. You don't want to create any confusion or make them think like, oh, can I make it or can I not? Have them register. And then once you actually have leads, give them a date and then create the presentation. He's like, so many of you are so paralyzed by perfect, and you're going to wait to have the perfect presentation, the perfect ad, the perfect everything, and you're never even going to do anything. And then he shared, you know what the enemy of good is? Everyone's like, bad. No, it's perfect. It's like, get good first, then work on perfection. I'm like, damn. So, but that's
Pretty
all I
wise
got,
words,
man.
man.
Yeah, no, it is. I think it is super great. But yeah, I just wanted to hop on here today because it's been so long and share a little of the information that was shared with me. And not new information, but you would share with me in a call yesterday, about that gentleman that called, and it was just basically, here's my budget, which was peanuts, and I need this to work tomorrow. And, you respectfully declined, as we should. And we just hear way too much, and it's just sad. So I think for anyone out there listening, understand that the most important thing to you is lead generation and driving that in. Find systems that work for you. When you find one that does, find another, and then another. And then from there, all of your problems are going to look a lot different. You're still going to have them. But I would rather have problems that I'd have to figure out systems and automations and people and culture and growth and everything else than how do we do payroll?
Too many people getting caught by analysis paralysis, trying to be perfect. But yeah, 100% agree, man. Yeah. And like most businesses, I think if, ourselves, we can just solve like the leads issue, right? And just focus on driving really good leads into the business. Yeah, I think that's the number one thing that, any business needs to focus on is get leads first, worry about fulfillment later.
Yeah. But have a plan for fulfillment, to be clear. don't string people along. Don't lie. Don't do, what was that,
No.
that stupid
I'm
Netflix?
in sales, dude. So I just like to sell shit and break things,
True. Very true. But yeah, don't be reckless by any means. But yeah, I mean, if you get to a point where you've got the leads figured out so well that you've got to, put people on a wait list or, pause, incoming work. I mean, that's a blessing. That's not a curse.
Yeah, agreed.
Well,
cool, man.
Thank you, brother, for your time, and for everybody else listening. I look forward to some of the next episodes coming up, or podcast episodes, because we've got some cool special local guests coming in. So the next one, the next guy that we have coming in, his name is Miles Welch. Super great dude. He has been in leadership and management and directorship training for like forever, and he's actually working with us on some things, which I'm super thankful for. But wanted to give him a chance to highlight what he's doing, why it's so important, and why it matters so much for business owners. And we asked him when we first started talking with him, like, hey man, like, give me your elevator pitch for what you're doing. He's like, I'd have to think on that for a little bit. And he sat there for like 2 seconds, and he's like, really what it comes down to is like, you're the visionary, and I help build your people so they make it come to life. And I was like, oh, that's good. So yeah, he'll be on next time. And then other than that, yeah, thanks for everything, guys. Like, share, subscribe. Man. Me too, bro. See ya.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Have a great one.
Yeah, let's see how you do under pressure. Oh, yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better.